Music. Hi guys, what I'm going to do right now is record a video that is suitable for those people who want to start playing the game from 0 to 10 that you have on the screen. Also for those people who, even though they have already started, have not have too much experience and want to learn, let's say, more things if you have experienced that. Truth is that this video is not for you, it's okay. Well, this, or it should be said, that this game is totally free. It is made by these people who say will fair game here to read at this moment. We have version 25, which is the last one. It is already called 1, and how it can be downloaded. The easiest thing would be to click on this vehicle that you have here that says web page, and Audaz takes us directly to its page where you can proceed to download, and if not in any browser, put 02. Download immediately, or Bleeding is worth the possibility of downloading. Is totally free, I repeat, and what happens is that they are financed with donations, so if someone wishes, they can make a donation now. You will see where can you do that. Well, this normally when you start playing the game for the first time, this program, well, a welcome screen appears here. Okay, I have it deactivated. It can be activated if you want now. It will be there later, you will see it. Then he explained what we have here on the left to start with. Well, the first option is to learn to play. Well, we have a manual. In this manual, well, it appears even the possible keyboard shortcuts that there is after there is a tutorial worth a tree of structures. What it tells us what elements each possible faction has in the game. Well, this is the entire structure tree. It can also be activated once you have started the game. Well, I'm going to do it so you can see it. Here you have it here in this part of the right end of the box. The fraction appears at this moment, and Athenians are going in alphabetical order of Athenians. Well, not exactly, because the Iberians should not go there. Okay, Athenians, Britons, Carthaginians. Well, at this time we are not talking about Athenians. Okay, let's see what we have. The program is developed in 3 phases. In the first, you can create all these elements or all these buildings. The Agora Civic Center, which is the most important sense. If you lose the matter, then houses and warehouses of resources to collect wood, stone, the metal that is needed to get more units and more buildings. One of the farmhouses that are buildings that allow you to collect food from the orchards to get food also. Corrals to get cattle, for example, goats, sheep, pigs, cows, and then a dock, the docks. Obviously, because you have to build them in water, either on the coast or on the coast of a lake or in a river. You'll see what it's for specifically. You can take out merchants. All you can take out fishing boats, warships, well, you LLC. Music. Then we have the barracks. The barracks allow us to take out soldiers in this case. There are 22 types: the Athenian hoplites and the Athenian militia slingers. The stables where you can take out the cavalry, and then here there are several various types of towers. Well, an advanced tower that is usually built on neutral ground. It is worth later. The watchtower that is usually used as a watchman to indicate when the enemy comes, and finally, we have here the wooden palisade built of wood. Obviously they are usually weaker than the stone walls that we will see. Then here you also have the types of, in this case, citizens, soldiers who are from the houses. Women can also be finally removed, and then the types of improvements that each of these elements have. For example, here we have iron axe heads for 4. Example, it is easier to cut down the wood. Anyway, we will see them now. These are the improvements, and each element would correspond to the first phase. Then we have the second. The second can already be taken out of forge to take out weapons and improvements in the arms. Temple citizens can be taken out, that is, healers or doctors that allow the wounds of the wounded soldiers to be healed. Markets obviously to transfer the merchandise from one place to another and improve our economy. You will see. Here you have the merchants, and here you have one of them, and then the stone towers. And I usually use these towers more than the ones we have seen before, and I consider them more effective and the corresponding improvements. And as I mentioned before, the stone walls with the corresponding towers. And here below the improvements, as I mentioned in the third phase, we have the possibility of taking out personal arsenal or an arsenal with their moustache launchers, with their siege catapults, and their siege battering rams, and then the improvements that the fortresses have contemplated. Okay, you will see it. In the inaugural fortresses, they can take out heroes. In others you have to go to another place. Now you will see it in the Athenians, where the heroes are the law. And also improvements, in this case willingness to fight a theater, a marvelous direct. What is that good for? Normally there is an established limit. The population by default is usually 300, although it can be modified. Well, if we build a marvel that allows you to get even more, I think they're usually about 60 more people. Okay, then we have the gym, the Athenian gym. Well, in this they can be taken an urban guard and archer in appointment, who are, let's say, specialized elite soldiers. And then in the last one, the council hall. In the case of the Athenians, I repeat, well, we have the possibility of taking out one of these 3 heroes, only one. If he dies, can take out 1 second, and if he left this, a third, and if he does not, bet that 2 money. And the improvement, for example, the reform and pickets. Well, I am going to show you another so that you can see that not all the factions have the same possibilities. The Persians, what most calls the attention, for example, the 6th axis in the 3rd phase, in addition to the arsenal, can also be taken out by a stable of elephants. Remember, the elephants are also very destructive, just like the battering rams. They were serious, and you have to handle it carefully and also protect them by law. Very well. Well, this here you also have a throne room. You see the heroes Adrian from here in the throne room. So be careful, because the elite soldiers, or let's say heroes, do not always come out of the same buildings. You have to see in each condition where they come from. We are going to close, as I told you, that this can be seen from the game itself. Once it has started, it is better that we have already seen the structure of the structure tree. Well, here we have the civilizations. If I click on it, it will not be indicated. Well, let's say the history of each one. Of the factions, for example, here he is talking about the Athenians, but we could talk about the Blades or whatever. We are going to close. This, it is a matter of reading it and looking at it calmly, although it is not essential. Well, this also exists about the scenarios. We will see it a little better. In a moment, these are the two maps that are planned to be able to play. It is worth in each of the battles. Well, let's move on to this from here. One player usually starts here with one player. Well, if you click here, you start a battle. Well, the first you prepare it and prepare the details, the different options, and then proceed to do so. If you have a saved game, you can load it and resume it from that moment on. This is a new campaign and I have never loaded a campaign used. And the replay option is what allows if you have saved a game. And the selections, well, then it allows you to review the lore. You are not playing, you are just reviewing the. You can even see what the enemy has done to music. I repeat, you are not just playing, you are reviewing it very well. The next option is multiplayer. Well, or it should be said that this game also allows you to play online, of course, so it would be the right option for that. Okay, let's see about the settings. The keyboard shortcuts. Okay, there are many. There are some that are interesting, others I have never used them. The language, the selection of mods. Well, what does this mean? That you can put modifications made by third parties, okay, for the game. For example, the possibility of adding factions that do not exist from the entry of black into the fire. I know, for example, one called China is quite interesting, and what I was telling you here is the welcome screen. This is what appears the first time, and if you click here it shows each once you start, and if you deactivate it as it is now, well, no music. Very well, we go back to the settings. If I give it options, here you have many things that can be modified. You don't have to modify so many. I already have only some of them. I'll tell you. Well, for example, if I go to the graphics, I have deactivated this fog option. Why? Because on some maps, especially that have a lot, let's say, a lot of swamp, because there are some fogs that almost make it impossible for you to see what is happening. So I have a very bad feeling. View, because I prefer to deactivate it. I want to see what is happening to read well. In the next one, well, there are many possibilities of modifications. Take into account one detail, and that is that against more options you put it, because the computer is going to need more resources, and if you have a computer that is not very powerful because it may slow down or even crash, so be careful for that and looking at it right day. Sound good, as you can see. The program has music, okay, and not always. The music depends on each faction. Normally it is not always the same. Then here you can modify the volume from the general volume to the music volume, the environmental volume. Anyway, here you have these fusions, okay. I don't have the music one very high because if it doesn't cover everything. Configuration of the game, very well important. It next first the difficulty of the guide. By default, the guide, the artificial intelligence of the game is okay. Then by default it appears intermediate. I think it is already on foot, because if we go to difficult or very difficult, the games become very complicated. To start, I would say that take that okay, it can be very easy how easy it is to be so complex for you to be able to advance and even beat the computer. Okay, there is even a demonstration. You can try it at the beginning. I am not going to stop there for the moment. In between at that would be for default. Later when the game starts, it can be modified as well after the default behavior of the artificial intelligence by default is random, but there are 3 other possibilities that are balanced: aggressive and defense. I imagine that if I put aggressive, well, on the contrary, it will be a lot more aggressive with me, of course, and if I put it's defense, because the backs will be better guarded, and I leave it random. Okay, and after these things that I have never touched. In the last one during the game here an option appears that is health of the unit. Well, it's there. I haven't touched it. Okay, I imagine it will tell you what health the units that are wounded have or how much they can withstand, let's say later. The size of the group when regulating, when recruiting in batches, can be set to 5 by default. Law 5 can be modified. And by the way, here you also have the colors that can be used. There are more, but normally I put the color blue on the enemy red, and so this can also be modified later when using the program. Well, if you have modified something, you have to press save, and if you want to place it in Gago's factory mode, well, you have to press reset that, I suppose. You have it clear, water, close it well after the scenario editor, I imagine. It is so that you can modify the scenarios. I never credits us, they say, who is responsible for all of this work that has been done. Here you have each one of the sections and the people who have been working, and by the way, as I said before, here you have the possibility of making a donation. It is worth going out, and for last is the one to go out to dinner first, and the one to exit the game from below tells us, as I told you before in the version that is available from time to time, it is convenient to go to the website of these people and see which one is the last one, because it is that they usually take out, that they usually renew their web page periodically. You can communicate errors that you have detected in order to donate again. 6 translate into game, and here you have who are the ones who do it. We will fire games, and there is the version that is from the 11th of July 2021, and it's called Alpha 25. Despite being a free game, it's spectacular. It has some wonderful images, okay, and it works quite well. Sometimes the program crashed on me, but anyway, it's still in alpha phase. How can we observe? But it has been like this for a long time. That does not mean that it is a very bad game. On the contrary, it is very good, very good. Well, we are going to start now with where a player and the battles appear, and this is this little screen here. This is the map. What is selected at this moment is called Sierra Pyrenees. I remember very well. How can they be changed? Well, here it tells us the type of scenario is random. I have it selected like this. Now break, because if I put it in skirmish and I hit explore scenarios, look at what the name of each scenario tells me, and then in parentheses a little number in. A little number is okay. This means that this map is planned for 4 opponents. And you get the 4 parents that nights later if you can deactivate some of them, but in principle they know 4 here, 5 here, 2 here, 4 and here 2 anyway. Then there is a third possibility, which is the scenario scene. And I don't know, I have never used them, but it seems in more complex scenarios. We are going to go back to random. If you look at random, it does not put the number in brackets. That means that I am going to be able to say how many players I want to use in each battle. Music. And well, they are arranged in alphabetical order. However, here are two that for you are out of place. Fortressism criticized it will be because this one is in lowercase and this one has an accent. Why? Because those are not placed alphabetically. Good as it is chosen because it is very easy. Once I like this non Sierra Pyrenica by clicking on it, and I click on it, and I click on it, or I click twice. Click, click with the left button. Here we have already discussed all this. Then the scenario, take a good look that tell me about the scenario. You can modify it, you can make it smaller or huge. The bigger it is worse, because the computer is going to need more resources and you will have a very wide area and it's going to be a bit difficult to control it. You have to be careful. Large scenarios are usually used when there are many opponents. If there are only two of you, you can go crazy because you have to keep an eye on each corner of the map. Okay, well, at least that's my opinion. We are going to leave it as it was normally. Later, there are two interesting things here. Well, the deactivating treasures, and in some maps, treasures usually come out that are, let's say, accumulations of metal or wood or food. If you are lucky enough to find one of them, it is very easy for them to take it and increase their resources. And then this other important music normally comes like this without activating, and that means that when you are playing, you are really only seeing the area from your area of influence of your territory. The rest is go totally black. As you explore those areas, they will light up okay, but from the start they are black. It's you from the start. You are not seeing the enemy. You don't know what the Lord does. Instead, if you activate being here, well, then let's say that the serial would be an intermediate situation, taking into account the next one that you are going to see now, and that is that you can see perfectly, as I said before, your area of influence. And the rest looks like this in a dull grayish tone. And if you click on this other one, what I recommend at the beginning, why? As you can see everything perfectly, then you can see everything. You can see the whole map, including the part that you have explored and the part of the enemy. You cannot put more, and I go to the player here on the right side. I can tell you how many players I want. For example, 46 4 players appear here. In this case, they only have, let's say, faction assigned to the first two. And here there is no team either. Let's leave it in 2 for now. We're going to leave it in moments. First, if we click on this arrow, we can indicate what color we want. For us, in this case, I have blue. It's the default one. And for the enemy, which is the computer in this case, in any case, it would be red. It's red. Very well. If we click here, okay, we could assign that player to whom it corresponds. Of course, in this case it's only me and the computer, but if we were playing online, it could appear here and mark people, and you could then select who that player corresponds. Okay, we leave it that way. If we click on this other arrow now, And we can choose the civilization or faction that we want for us. In this case, they are Romans. We are going to leave them red and the enemy would be the Carthaginians in blue for me, Romans, and red for the Carthaginians, who would be the enemy, and here you can choose the team to read carefully what I was saying. Before, let's imagine that we have 4 with 38, there are 4 opponents that we can. We can put 2 with team 1 and 2 with team 2, it would be 2 against 2, or we can also put 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then they're all against all, taking into account that sometimes there are alliances between them. Be careful that sometimes they ally with the ITE, the perfect team too. Here on the other hand, as you can see in the player part, apart from choosing the number, we can also choose the world population and then modify this number. I think that with 300 we are doing well. In this case, the maximum population would be 300. It can be modified, it can be reduced, the limited can be set, as we can see. Later, the initial resources, because there are also several possibilities that are very scarce, or very high, and all against all. I have left it as it is by default, which is that it is scarce, that is. Now you will see that they only take out a civic center to start with. 4 women, 4 soldiers and a horseman. I imagine that if you modify this, you can make them come out more or less. It is worth it, and the deactivating spies well. The truth is that I have never used it, but I think that what it does, here you say it, I think what it does is that they are blowing on you, they are spying on you what the opponent is doing and the opponent what you are doing and tricks. He says that it is also very good. Well, let's see, let's go with the map of Murillo Sierra Pirenaica now. We already have everything planned. By the way, here is a cogwheel that I had not commented on. If you click on it, you can choose the behavior of the enemy, as we have commented before: balanced, defensive, aggressive, or random. By default, it is random, and then the level of difficulty is worth it is an initiation video. I am going to make it very easy, because if I am thinking about what I have to explain and then I have to build buildings, take out units, defend myself, all of this is going to be very complicated for me, so I am going to do it. It's very easy to agree so that they give me time to think about what I'm going to explain, because if they don't, they won't let me. You'll see. We accept it, and now we simply have to start the game. Well, by the way, here we see the time at which we meet and when we start the game time will also appear. I have it activated to know how long I've been working on the battle. It's starting now. It's generating the Pyrenean mountain range music. And here we have it. Good. By the way, you can zoom, as you can see, and how to achieve this with the mouse wheel. If I press the wheel to one side, the image is enlarged and allows us to see the details more clearly, and if I turn it the other way around, I have more visible area and, let's say, okay. By the way, here, you have the total map in this miniature that you see. Here, what you are seeing is in this position, a more or less bluish circle. It is no longer my area of influence, my territory. After here is the opposite, that would be his territory, and if you click on this point they are worth over this area, then I would see what the enemy is doing. In this good case I would see it because I have it revealed as I was telling you. If it wasn't revealed I saw it all black because I still haven't gotten there very well. How can you move? Well, you know, by clicking. Look, I'm going to go here or take that one in the box, and with the mouse drags it wherever you want. Okay, well, let's go to the river wheel. Apply ourselves a little here. And now I'm going to tell you about this. From the start of the game, from the start, it usually gives us a civic center, an agora, which is the most important building, like I was telling you before. Here you have it, from which women and soldiers and cavalry can be taken. Now I will comment on them. Little by little, 4 women. How? I can select them, because as time goes by, I click and something like that. I already have the 4 women selected. There you have the 4 women. Well, how are we going to tell them to do something? For example, I am going to tell them to go to that area there and get me food. In this case, they are like bushes with berries. With them selected, of course, with those with that selection of 4 women, I click with the right button to pick up where they will leave the food in. This case, the only one, well, he will see that yesterday his. Well, later there are 2 soldiers here and here another 2, in total there are 4. When the boar Neros and 2 swordsmen, well, I'm going to tell them with them selected that they are going to get me wood. I remember electro expelled with the right button on the tree with %. Look carefully that with a selection of personnel. If I place myself here I get some logs that say they are wood. If I come here I get stone. That would be a stone quarry. If I come here this would be a metal mine. Here I see some cherries for food, and as you will see later it can also come out as a he eats wheat when he builds, let's say, some of the orchards to collect food. And here at the back of this building you see the silhouette of a horseman. You see us in blue, which is my color. If you take it, I put it, for example, here. Okay, and you'll come back and it's gone. If it's in blue, because it's behind some obstacle, in this case it was a building. Okay, the same thing also happens if we put it behind a tree. When it passes behind the tree it turns blue. That means it doesn't work. You can only see the silhouette that we can make. With this rider, well, for me to fight, the truth is that it is not very useful for those who kill him right away. What can we do then? Look, it can be, we can use it for hunting. Here we have a series of chickens. Well, look. Selecting now, I'll tell you how I do it. Touch and start hunting those chickens for coke, and if there were any for the wild boar. There are, for example, here. Music. When I see one I'll tell you about it for. Good. I'll go back how I managed to do that. Yes, you only do it once. The deer, select the rider, and I'm going to tell it where you want to right click. It does it only once to get it to go one at a time. What you have to do is hold down the shift key and with the right button and selecting the hunt. That cools down. Then remember the following. The chip key usually works normally too. Further expand the options, for example, to build a house instead of 2, 3, 4 or 5 successively, and so on. For example, instead to take out a soldier, well, take out 5 at the same time. So to do this you have to hold down the Shift key, as you will see. Right away we are going to see how to take out the well before swimming. Look at this. Counter these counters that are up here. That means the first it tells us how much food we have stored and how many people are working on it. In this case it is 1120 and 5 and 5, let's say 5 units. That would be the 4 women plus the horsemen, then I have 4 units. That would be the 4 women plus the horsemen, then I have 4 soldiers. In this case capturing a pardon is collecting wood from stone. I have 300 units, but I don't have anyone working on it, nor metal. And finally this other counter tells me what is the maximum population limit that I can get to the game, 300. Unless I build the wonder and they increase it to 360 we have at this moment the limit would be 20. And how many do I have now? 94 women, 4 soldiers and 1 horseman is fine. And what is that 8 telling me? Because there is 1 who is not doing anything, there are 4 women collecting food and 4 wood, and here the 8 appears to me. However, there are 9. No, because the rider looks like he would kill the game and he is with his arms crossed. Music. Well, how can I find out who is not doing anything? By pressing the period key. Good. First I go to select the horseman that was solved, as I have done, by clicking anywhere that is not a building or a unit or a resource. And how can I get to know who is not working? Well, look, I hit the point and what happens? Because it selects me, actually, the rider, if there are many who are not doing anything, is only going to select 1. They would have to go one by one. Then you will see that there is a more comfortable way to know. And it is by pressing point, but holding down the Alt key. Then it tells you who is not there doing nothing. I think it is the complete map, but now the truth is that it makes me doubt. I do not know if it is the complete map or the visible area, and then check it. Well,